All right, friends, it's T and I'm back with another video. It's JasonBlaha again, man. Yes, I'm going to review the gym lifting, recruiting lifting sleeve. Jeez, I wonder what happened to me, client Michelle. Anyway, I'm going to review this video. Let's review this video together, man. Today, high reps are valuable for both size and strength. JasonBlaha says, yes, high reps are valuable for both size and for strength. Okay. They definitely are.
Higher reps absolutely have their place in our training. This is something that always strikes me as bizarre.
What does he mean by size? Does he mean like sarcoplasmic size? And when he says strength, does he mean like chemical strength? Or does he mean in myofibrillar, getting more myofibrillars and gaining more natural strength? So I don't really understand what he's talking about usually in his videos. He's never really explanatory.
When you see a lot of people who say they really only want to lift heavy, and believe me guys, I'm all about lifting heavy. My background is in powerlifting. I still start most of my...
Yeah, you want to lift heavy, but you're not very explanatory in your videos, Blaha. You need to go into detail and explain what this size is. There's more than one type of size, and there's more than one type of strength. Is this physical? Is this natural physical strength you're increasing through myofibrillar growth? Or is this chemical strength, adaptations through chemical strength, being in an adapted state? I don't understand what you're talking about.
My workouts with a heavy, really heavy top set. That's just generally how I train, whether it's been singles or, AMREPs, with things like 315 on the bench. I always start heavy. So I get it. But I think there's this idea that people have that in order to get stronger, in order to...
I get it. I start heavy. I get it. Yeah, you should start. I would say if you're a trained person or whatever, you have some training, behind you, whatever. You should start your first repetition with the heaviest weight. You should move for the heavy. Really, you should move for the heaviest weight on that repetition. Yeah. And move for a high rep range in that first set. But that's just me, man.
Get bigger, that all of your sets need to be heavy. And I want to reiterate, I do think all of us...
Do they need to be heavy? You need to get bigger to get stronger, so you can move a heavier weight eventually. I find that's much better. And moving for chemical strength, that's why people get injured all the time. They want to be a small, strong guy, and so they get injured. They get injuries like crazy because their body's weak. They left the body behind, but the chemical strength took off. It's like steroid people. It's called structural damage. I'll explain this. It's called ultra structural damage when you lift heavy for heavy repetition work is structural damage, okay? It's not going to happen all the time, but it'll happen. And so these people on steroids, they take a chemical, their force production is a lot higher. The structural damage can be a lot higher than what the body can endure in that session, okay? Just like a small bridge. It has a weight limit, like your elevator, the cord. It says it can only take 1,000 pounds, but you try to overcapacitate it and everybody dies. Or a bridge, it gets structural damage because they keep telling you only a certain amount of weight can go across this bridge, but heavier and heavier trucks keep crossing the bridge. It gets a bunch of structural damage. What do? They weld the structural damage. They slap more metal on it to make it stronger physically, to reinforce it, to make it stronger. Okay, so what does your body do usually to make itself stronger? Well, it repairs and remodels itself a lot stronger due to this structural damage. But that is the protective effect from getting any more damage. Look, it's the protective effect from your body growing any more muscle. It repairs and remodels stronger so that it doesn't get structural damage, so that it doesn't grow any more muscle. That's the point of the body. It's the opposite. It makes it stronger so it doesn't get any more structural damage. Well, that's kind of like the bridge too. You could say that. These trucks riding over it, right? Now it can take heavier capacities and it won't get structural damage anymore. The bridge, right? It can endure this heavier truckload coming over it now because you slap more metal on it and you welded it, right? The structural damage. Okay. That's much like your muscles too. It happens the same. But now you're adapted. Your body's adapted. It's not going to get any more structural damage, so it's protected from getting any more muscle. And if it's protected from getting any more muscle, and you're still lifting quite heavy weight, like these steroid people, you're exceeding that structural that the total structure of your body. So it takes the brunt of it, right? Okay. So how do you get these injuries? How do they get these injuries? Well, because it overcapacitated the structural integrity of the muscle. It just wasn't able to take it. And in this instant, it caused a permanent injury and not any small, minute structural damages where they can repair them all stronger. It can't keep up with the force production. There's more force production being eked out than what the structure can take. And so in this instant, the bridge collapses and everybody dies with the trucks. Get it? Just like your body. Somewhat like that. That's why all these stupid ass steroid people get all kinds of injuries. Bicep tears, shoulder, this, that, chest tears, lat tears, whatever. They have all kinds of stuff. All kinds of injuries because they're stupid. It wouldn't happen usually would not happen to a natural person because they would never exceed that limit. Because they're not on steroids, they're not taking drugs. Okay.
And people who have more physique-oriented goals should be doing some heavy training. Now, if you're a strength athlete, you absolutely need to be doing some. Right. But I think people really...
That's why, as a natural person, when you're building your body, you need to eke out adaptations. So these adaptations, too, are based on moving for a heavier weight. But you're getting structural damage. Your body's growing these muscles, and then you're able to lift heavier. The heavier weight feels a bit lighter, so then you move it for more repetitions. You get more structural damage, and then you just keep moving up with the weight. Now, you'll get to a certain degree. I don't know. I can't really tell you. You'll get to a certain level where you could lift so much, and you'll be so big. But you're going to want to get bigger. So you're going to have to eat more too as well. You got to eat more to increase more of the structure of your body to compensate for that. So yeah, protein synthesis needs to exceed this breakdown. It's an anabolic growth state. You want to convert the catabolic hormone to an androgen so it doesn't have to compete with the myocytic androgen receptor. Look, I'll explain this. For natural people that want to get big, they need to be in an anabolic growth state. That is the best effect that is the best natural anabolic state that you could be in is an anabolic growth state. Because you can shut down the catabolic hormone, convert it to an androgen, so it doesn't have to compete with the myocytic androgen receptor, giving you more force production and helping you eke out more growth. See that? And adaptations. All right. So yeah. But the majority of people out there, they're never in an anabolic growth state. They never exceed this breakdown, and protein synthesis exceeds this breakdown or anything. They're always eating bagels and shitty stuff, whatever. They're not focused on eating. They're focused more on lifting weights, thinking that the weights are going to build the body, when in fact, you should be focusing more on eating, and then the gym should be less than 10%. 90% eating, 10% the gym, bro. Get it? Yeah, I'm not kidding, man. But there are different ways of getting these adaptations. There are different ways of getting an adaptation in a repair and a remodeling of the muscle fiber. Get it? The structural damage. It can't happen all the time. It can't happen all the time, and it can't happen in an adapted state if you're doing something that you're unaccustomed to doing. Let's say you're adapted to all these exercises in the gym, but if you do something now that you're unaccustomed to doing or you're unfamiliar with, you're going to get some structural damage. All right? So that's what you need to focus on. You need to focus on unaccustomed exercises. Maybe you go away sometimes, you're kind of untrained, you come back, you're resensitized, stuff like that. Doing full body resensitization, full body movements to get more structural damage there all over. It's an overworking of this muscle. Or you could just eke out single adaptations in these split routines. But again, your body's going to rapidly adapt. So you're going to have to figure out how to eke out more adaptations. Maybe you're going to need to do some calisthenics, go back to lifting weights, a whole bunch of stuff, man. You're going to have to circulate back and forth through these exercises, doing different stuff. Maybe cables, maybe free weights, maybe dumbbells, maybe barbells. And how you do these exercises are all dependent on you. Sometimes instead of just pulling upward, pull downward.
Undervalue higher rep work, particularly when it comes to hypertrophy. And the data has consistently shown at this point, we've seen real world examples, that people get bigger with higher reps. It absolutely causes muscle growth. This is
Do people get bigger with higher reps? Yeah.
not even in question at this point. But again, you'll get people who say, well,
Again, they get bigger dependent on what they're eating. And the majority of people out there are eating more carbohydrates than protein. Look at people when they go to the restaurant. What's on their plate? Man, there's vegetables, rice, some potatoes on there. They give you a piece of bread, and the meat is like so tiny. It's just a little piece of meat. It's drowned in all this like carbohydrate shit, man. You know that? So what he's talking about, high repetition, you may be getting bigger from a high repetition. Well, that's not based on structural damage. So what is this exactly? What is this growth? Okay, I'll tell you what it is. He always says fatiguing the muscles, right? That's what he's always talking about, fatiguing muscles. Okay. So if you could type this sometimes. They show you stuff. It's in Google when you type it up. How do you trigger sarcoplasmic hypertrophy? Remember, there's two types of hypertrophy. There's myofibrillar and sarcoplasmic. He's always talking about the one that you're growing in the gym from lifting weights, right? From doing high repetitions and all this stuff, you're going to grow. The muscle's going to magically grow. Of course, it's based on glycogen. I'll prove this. So sarcoplasmic hypertrophy training. Sarcoplasmic hypertrophy is achieved through what is known as fatigue training. Fatigue to muscle, muscle to fatigue, right? Isn't that what Blaha always says? Muscle to fatigue and all that kind of stuff, right? Okay. Fatigue training is training at an intensity 75% of your 1 RM with reps in the range of 10 to 15 and short rest periods, 45 to 90 seconds. Okay. But it's based on what you're eating. What causes sarcoplasmic hypertrophy? Well, here it is. They're going to tell you. Alternatively, sarcoplasmic hypertrophy occurs through the disproportionate expansion of the sarcoplasm relative to myofibrillar addition. Select studies have shown this process may occur in response to resistance training, although some studies reviewed this model. Okay, whatever. So it contains, okay, so what is sarcoplasmic hypertrophy? Why is it not beneficial? Okay, I'm going to explain to you why it's not beneficial, because they tell you here all the time why it's not beneficial. It says it contains adenosine tryptophosphate, glycogen, creatine phosphate, and water. See that? Listen to what they say. What does it contain? ATP contains ATP. It's an energy source. Glycogen, creatine phosphate, and water. Why is creatine products so popular? Why are they so popular? Because they increase the fluid in the muscle. Another cheap way of putting more water in your muscles. Okay, so during the workout, more fluid moves into the muscles to provide energy. Sarcoplasmic hypertrophy refers to the increase in volume of this fluid. It can make muscles appear larger, but it does not increase strength. See that? So, does sarcoplasmic hypertrophy increase size? Sarcoplasmic hypertrophy occurs when the volume of sarcoplasmic fluid in your muscle cells increases. The type of hypertrophy increases muscle volume. Muscle volume, yeah. But does not increase the size or the number of fibers, and thus does not result in improved performance, unfortunately. I'm sorry, people. Yeah, it sucks. And then there's high volume training, what these people are all talking about online. I told you before, high volume training. So here's an example. So these are people that come into the gym that are trained. When you're a trained person, you're adapted. So that's not the one I'm looking for. Hold on. Where's the PubMed version? Here it is. Muscle fiber hypertrophy in response to 6 weeks of high volume, again, high volume resistance training. He said high repetition. Now we're talking about high volume. So high volume and then high repetition. Now he talked about high repetition. Now we're going to talk about high volume. Resistance training in trained young men is largely attributed to what? Sarcoplasmic hypertrophy. And what is sarcoplasmic hypertrophy? It's a type of artificial muscle growth. That's what it is, friends. That's what it is. All right. Now let's go back to this video.
Well, if I only want to be strong, why should I bother? Well, because quite frankly, most of your strength is going to come from your muscle mass. So,
No, most of your strength, it does. It occurs in your muscle mass, but strength occurs. Here, hold on. A lot of that strength occurs here through these myocytic androgen receptors. So if you look this up in PubMed, NCBI, myocytic androgen receptor controls that strength, but not the mass of the limb muscles. See that? What controls the mass? Well, hypertrophy controls the mass. You get it? So what controls this type of strength? This myocytic androgen receptor, it controls the strength, that force production. And of course, the nervous system has something to do with that. If you were to cut your nerves or get some nerve damage, you're going to be in a weakened state. You won't be able to push weight. There will be poor, especially if you hurt your back. You'll have poor cord signal. That's why you want to keep your spine healthy. That's why the majority of people, they get injuries in powerlifting and they drop off because they've caused damage to the skeletal cord, your back. And that will cause poor cord signal, and then you'll be in a type of weakened state all the time. You won't be able to lift heavier anymore. That's what it'll cause you. It'll cause you all kinds of complications. That's why you want to keep a healthy back. Yeah. So there you go. This whole strength thing, he's talking about strength. I'm a small, strong guy. Get it? You are a small, strong guy, but you ain't strong. You're weak.
if you want to have the highest possible strength potential, you need to be getting jacked.
Yeah, I will agree with Blaha. If you want the most potential in strength, you need to get jacked. But I don't mean jacked in sarcoplasmic hypertrophy like he's talking about. That jacked is going to make you weak.
The migration process is...
Right? Bench press.
That's why people are always complaining, saying that, oh, he's a big guy, but he's not strong. Well, he may be big. He may have gained a bunch of weight, and that's not going to correlate to strength because it's sarcoplasmic hypertrophy. The muscle is based on sarcoplasmic and not myofibrillar growth. Yeah.
Best thing you can possibly do is to build big pecs and build big triceps. Maybe even...
Yeah, the best thing you could do is to build these big pecs and triceps, but guess what? Your body won't let you build them. You want to build them, but your body doesn't want to build them. Good luck.
Some big lats to bounce it off of. I mean, that's not a bad idea.
Why do you think Blaha is so small? He has no muscles. He never built any muscle on his body. He's a lifting slave. He's a lifting gym slave. He built no muscle. He's just a lifting gym slave.
Just throwing that out there. What? Size, absolutely.
When's the last time you've ever seen him get an adaptation in muscle growth? When? Where? Oh, I know. Sarcoplasmic hypertrophy, because he's on TRT. Testosterone is known fact to draw this fluid into the muscle. That's what testosterone does, especially in these phony bodybuilders taking steroids.
Impacts your strength. Now, for people who are chasing body composition, it's a no-brainer, right? Obviously, they want to get bigger. More muscle, less body fat, better body composition. Okay, and that holds true even for people who are in pursuit of health. Right? You get that a lot. You'll get people who say, well, I want functional strength, and it's like getting your quads bigger and getting your erectors bigger will give you more functional strength. What are you talking about? So we need to be clear on this. So what then is the role with the higher reps? Well, it's hypertrophy. Now, is that to say we can't get bigger on lower reps? Of course we can. And I do know a lot of experts who say, look, anything between about 5 and 30 reps is pretty much your sweet spot for muscle growth. It really is on a set per set basis. Now, I personally might lean in the direction of 5 to 20. Okay? Because again, in my experience, I don't think many people are really wired to make good muscle growth past about 20 reps.
Does he even know what grows muscle? What builds muscle? What type of muscle is he building? Does he never clarifies. He never it's non-explanatory. Nothing in his videos are. He just keeps telling you you're gonna lift a weight, it's gonna build a muscle, but there are different ways the way muscle exudes itself in hypertrophy. Hypertrophy just means something's getting bigger. It doesn't mean that you're building a muscle. It just means something is getting bigger. If somebody punches you in the leg, your leg is gonna hypertrophy. Get it? How? Because it's gonna bruise over there. That's how. You understand me? Did that mean that your muscles grew because you kept punching your leg? See what I mean? Or I lift adaptedly in the gym and I'm getting an inflammatory response, inflammation in the muscles. Oh, sorry about that. Hold on a second. Shit. I don't know what happened there. Sorry about that. I hit the wrong button. So anyway, so yeah, like I said, he's not self-explanatory, man. There's all kinds of things there, like, different ways to get hypertrophy and inflammatory response, stuff like that. People inflaming muscles constantly coming into the gym. It's ridiculous shit, man. Whatever.
When it comes to some of these bigger exercises, but they're usually talking about isolation movements. I will say for most of your big exercises, we start getting past about even 12 to 15, on a squat, on a deadlift,
That's pretty good. He's doing 5 plates on each side. Okay. The majority of people, they can do 5 plates. I've seen so many people do it, and so what? What is the purpose? Here's the thing, Blaha. What is the purpose of you doing these 5 plates so that you can lift them over and over in perpetual hell and limbo hell? Your natural strength is made natural in the natural world to pick up kids. You're strong enough when you're young to pick up children, your wife, stuff like that. Play sports, pick up your shopping, put it in the car. A bunch of stuff, pick up stuff from the hardware store, put it in there. That's natural strength. Okay. How do you increase your natural strength? By gaining more muscle. Okay. How do you get better at lifting a weight? You just keep lifting it until you get better at it. You keep lifting until your body adapts somehow. How does it adapt? By making you better lifting a heavy weight without gaining any more muscle. How does it adapt? What I just read to you, myocytic androgen receptor controls strength, not the massive limb muscles. Duh. See that? So what is the purpose of lifting this weight, this 500 pound, whatever, 400, 500 pound weight off the floor? What is the purpose of just so you could do it over and over again? Forever? What's the purpose behind it? You're never going to lift that weight anywhere. Your shopping is not going to weigh that heavy. And anyways, it's a lot more strenuous to walk a couple of blocks with your shopping, with heavy shopping in both arms. Let's say you're not driving. You walk down to the store, the local store, you want to buy some shopping. Walk home with it. That's gonna improve you as well. Walking home with your shopping. It's strenuous, right? You're gonna stop for breaks because, my arms are sore. Man, I've walked with shopping where my arms were hurting to the point where I never put the shopping down. I just kept walking home with it. I didn't care. Because I knew I would get some benefit out of it because I'm walking with it. See what I mean? I know I can get benefits with going shopping without my car, shopping and walking home with my shopping. Get it? But this guy, he does it for no reason other than to lift in a garage. This is crazy. This is insanity.
On a bench press? Probably not. I mean, I say that, but then again, I've always said sets of 20 on pull-ups will get you jacked. So maybe I'm even wrong there, when I sit back and think about it as I'm talking. But even then,
he is suffering from sarcopenia because He's not focused on building his body, the structure of his body, big and strong. He's focused on getting good at lifting a weight off the floor repetitively. This is what Einstein would call repetitive insanity. Get it?
Up to about 5 up to about 20. Do I think some really small exercises, maybe up to 30, but I think once we start getting to those sort of reps, honestly, just the fatigue from it makes it difficult to judge how close you are to failure, quite frankly. And so when we start doing really high reps at that extreme, if you want to gain muscle from them, you pretty much have to take them to failure, because they tend to burn so much that we'll quit 5 reps short.
And yeah, he wants you to do high repetitions to failure in an adapted state. And what are you going to get? Sarcoplasmic hypertrophy. Fatiguing the muscle. You're fatiguing the muscle, which is correlated with sarcoplasmic. Also, high volume is correlated with sarcoplasmic.
You pretty much have to take those sort of reps to momentary muscle failure to really get muscle growth out of them, because you're going to really misguess how close you are to failure unless you reach it. Again, just my opinion on those sort of rep ranges. But overall, anything between 5 and 20. But why the case for stuff up in the 10 plus? Because I see a lot of guys still who are like, well, I don't think there's any need for anything over 8. I shoot for 3 sets of 8. And that really kind of comes back to the Mike Menzer thing. Menzer was big on that, by the way, and I think
Menzer is a fake bodybuilder again on drugs, creating something fake. What's he talking about?
that's where a lot of that comes from. That 8 rep max really is a good starting spot. And I don't think that's a terrible idea. Again, to be perfectly honest, that is not a terrible idea as a starting spot. There's certainly worse starting spots than that. I think it's reasonable. But when people start saying, oh, I don't need to go higher than that, except that there's a lot of benefit. I've known of guys who literally build most of their benching, their big bench off of.
There's benefit because they want to get a higher bench. They're going to accumulate more androgen receptors through an adaptory state by doing higher repetitions. Yeah. That doesn't mean people that are trying to get structural damage to their muscle fibers so they can grow them bigger and stronger are not going to get these androgen receptors. You're going to get them too. You're going to get them too. But they also get damaged in a session. Let me explain this. The reason, if you are moving for heavier weight, let's say you're not building muscle, you want to move for pushing these heavy weights, you still need a time period off because they get damaged. There's hypoxia damage there. So the androgen receptor does get a relative amount of damage from lifting. Yeah. So you kind of lose your force production there. So you need a little bit more time off to come back so they can restructure themselves. You understand me? And then you'll be a lot stronger on your lifts. You'll be a lot stronger on your lifts, but you will not get stronger. You physically will not have gotten stronger. That's why you won't be good in arm wrestling competitions, physical competitions, like with people that are like doing physical sports like wrestling or arm wrestling or even strongman. It requires quite a bit of physical, muscular strength. There's a lot of shit going on there.
225. But they are literally sometimes doing sets of 15, sets of 20. They're just doing really high rep sets on it, and they have really big bench presses. And people would say, well, how could that be, with that lighter weight? Because it's heavy enough that they're getting good stimulus, and they're just doing lots and lots and lots of quality reps. You're going to build really big pecs doing that. Okay? You're going to build really big pecs. And I think when it comes to training really strict, there's something to be said for the higher rep ranges. Now, obviously, being strict with big movements, it's a little different because sometimes form degrades, but with some of the smaller movements, absolutely. Even still, compound movements, an upright row, perfect example, right? Perfect example of where being above 10 reps, you're probably going to be stricter with it, okay? But again, the higher rep ranges, when we start hitting 10 plus, It does make it easier for us to focus on full range of motion because we're not struggling to move a big weight.
He's adapted to all his exercises. There's no more adaptations. Zero adaptations. There's zero adaptations here because he's adapted. But the adaptation, what he's going to get in doing higher repetitions, like I said, his secondary shift moves into sarcoplasmic hypertrophy. It is not overseen. The reason why it's so easy to build these phony muscles through sarcoplasmic hypertrophy is because it's not overseen by myostatin, follistatin, or the satellite cell. Okay? It's based on ATP, man. So, yeah, just like getting fat. It's easy to get fat, but it's hard to build muscle. Why is that? Because fat cells are not overseen by these things. They have no limit. They can get big and big and big until you bust and die, okay? They get big forever. But again, muscle cells can only get so big, and then they never get any. Then they do not get big anymore during hypertrophic process. They reach a ceiling limit beyond where the satellite cell can donate any more extra nuclei to that domain to support further muscle growth. Get it? Because it reached an MND size limit. That cell, the muscle cell, reached a ceiling fucking limit. It is beyond where the satellite cell can donate any extra nuclei to that domain to support further muscle growth. So what do you need to do to get that domain, to push that domain and get the satellite cell to support further muscle growth? What do you need to do? You need to figure it out to build real muscle. But that has nothing to do with sarcoplasmic hypertrophy, man.
A really good groove on the set. Right? We get into a good groove on the set and we're used to just completing the reps through a full range of motion. We're used to doing them under control through the whole set. So when it starts to get hard, we've already got a bunch of practice reps doing that. So you have that. And then it's just a less fatigue on your joints. That is the big problem with lifting heavy all the time. Number one problem in my experience as a coach, 25 plus years in the game, when you lift heavy too much, it just beats your joints into the ground. The higher rep.
Yeah. If you lift too much heavy, it beats your joints down into the ground as you get older. Why is he doing this then? This is lifting hell.
Work does not beat your joints up. Now, it may create a lot of fatigue, right? It might create a lot of peripheral nervous system fatigue. It might make you tired. Okay? And it has its own recovery issues to deal with.
It might make you tired. It'll weaken you, is what it's doing. Physically weakening your body.
And you have to be mindful of recovery, obviously, when doing limit sets with really high.
Look, every time he's lifting these heavy weights, right? Because he's got to keep up with the Joneses. Every time he does this, it physically weakens your body, and the weight there is causing a disruption in the receptors that are for this maximum force production. So they're getting damaged in this session right now. So they're weakening you. And then you got to take certain time off. So that's why some people complain. They say, well, yesterday I could squat 500, but today I can't even do 250. I could barely do 250. Why is that? Because you got damage to the myocytic androgen receptor, and you're weakened in a weakened state. Hello. You understand me, man? That's why when most lifters, it's better to take more time off and then come back, and then you'll find that you'll be a lot more stronger on your lifts and better. But you're just lifting for no other reason than to lift a heavy weight. You haven't really built yourself bigger and stronger. Your body hasn't built bigger and stronger through structural damages.
Because they will create a lot of fatigue. But what they don't do is beat your joints up. And that's kind of a big deal. So again, if we're trying to get really high quality volume and we're not trying to just hammer our joints into the ground, and I'm telling you.
Yeah, hammer your joints into the ground for no other reason than to hammer them. That's why I try to tell you, everybody in the gym had reached the ceiling limit during hypertrophic process, beyond where the progenitor can donate any extra nuclei to that domain to support further muscle growth. So what are people doing in the gym exactly? Why are they going there? They don't really know how to get over that MND size limit. They don't know how to get over it. They don't realize it's based on an adaptation system, and they don't like being sore and damaged. They get sore and damaged when they were when they were untrained and they first came into the gym. They didn't like it. They didn't realize what that was, but that's where the newbie gains came from. And then in their mind, in the back of their mind, they've been convinced by everybody that that's a bad thing. To get DOMs for so many days and to be sore all over again like the first time they were when they got their newbie gains is a bad thing. See what I mean? It's a bad thing, so they're adapted to all their exercises. And what do? I gotta chase the pump. They're chasing the pump now, which is associated with sarcoplasmic hypertrophy. It is based on ATP, glycogen loading, get it? And so they're doing high reps, they're doing high volume, they're just doing everything in the book in an adapted state. They're not getting any more structural damage, so they're not getting stronger, physically bigger and stronger. They're getting bigger through an energy source called ATP, and then they're just getting better at lifting a heavy weight because that's what they're focused on in an adapted state.
This is a 47-year-old lifter. 10 plus reps have a good place in your training if you're trying to do any significant amount of volume. Now, if you're going to do extreme minimalism,
and a good majority of people are just inflaming their muscles, inflammatory response, day in and day out, man.
Maybe not as big of a deal. But if you're trying to do any appreciable amount of volume, you're going to learn to respect those rep ranges just because they keep your joints healthy while letting you maximize muscle growth. All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on
rep ranges. Keep your joints healthy. They don't keep your joints healthy. What keeps your joints healthy is the food that you're eating. Now, if you're eating foods with oxalates, they have oxalatic crystals. They'll fuck up your joints. And heavy weight will fuck up your joints too, especially if you get older. As you get older, remember your progenitors are aging too. There's a lot of stuff that's causing them to age. Everything in your body is kind of aging, so they don't repair your body the same like they did when you were younger. That's why when you're a young person and you break a bone, it takes about 6 weeks to heal. But if you break it as an adult, well, guess what happens? It takes 7 months. There you go.
Not today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys and gals.
I hope that was informative, friends. I'll see you in the next one. Tell us what you think about that. Like, subscribe, support the channel, helps with the algorithm. I'll see you in the next one. Ciao, friends. Don't fall for the bullshit, man.